Good evening, everyone. I would like to call to order this meeting of the Salem-Keizer School District Budget Committee, our first meeting of the year. Welcome, everybody, and roll call, please.
Betty Patacoli.
Here.
Nancy McMorris-Audix.
Here.
Mark Bateman, we knew he would be absent this evening. Chris Brantley.
Here.
Lloyd Chapman.
Here.
Rachel Dewey Thorset.
Here.
Jeff Fayville.
Here.
Jim Green.
Here.
Levy Herrera Lopez. Rick Kimball.
Here.
Adam Kohler.
Here.
Paul Kylo.
Here.
Chuck Lee.
Here.
Larry Trott.
Larry's sick. He called me.
It's going around. That's it.
Okay, so welcome, everyone, to our Budget Committee. And can we not schedule these leading after a board meeting that's supposed to last an hour, please? Or can we go to Venti's? Okay, sorry, let's get serious.
Note taken.
Okay. Superintendent Perry, if you would, introductions of any new members.
Right, we do have 3 new members, but only one here tonight. So Adam, welcome to the Budget Committee process. And Adam, do you know everyone around the table, or would it help if we did a quick introduction?
Quick introduction would be great.
Okay, so we'll do that. Lloyd, we'll start with you.
Lloyd Chapman.
And how many years on the Budget Committee?
My fourth.
Okay.
Chuck Lee, 8 years. Jim Green, 7 years.
Paul Kylo, 2 years.
Betty Patacoli, this is my 4th year.
7 months in.
Nancy McMorris-Audix. This is my 6th year.
I'm trying to remember.
Sixth year.
Well, except that I came as an observer the year before that. So I think I've been around watching the process for 7 years now. And I'm Chris Brantley.
I'm Jeff Fayville, and this is my 4th year.
Rick Kimball, 10 years.
Rachel Thorset, this is
Hi, I'm Mike Wolf, Chief Operations Officer. This will be my 5th.
And then I'm going to have our front row assistant superintendents do introductions too, so Adam is sure he knows who you are as well.
Good evening, I'm Ken Parshall.
I'm Kelly Carlisle, Assistant Superintendent.
Ken's role is the HR side of the house, and Kelly's role is the instruction side of the house. Mike is the fiscal side, so between the 3, I think we can answer most of the budget questions when we get that far. All right.
Okay, next up, election of the Budget Committee Chair for 14-15 year. Any nominees? Yes, Chuck?
Madam Chairperson, I would like to nominate Betty Patacoli to be the chair of the Budget Committee again.
I'd like to second that.
Okay. Any other nominations? Can I take a vote for myself?
Can you nominate somebody else?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you all for your vote of confidence in me. Now we do election of the Budget Committee Vice Chair. Chuck?
I would like to place the name of Nancy McMorris-Audix for Vice Chair of the Budget Committee.
Okay.
Second.
Any other nominations? No. Okay, all in favor of Nancy McMorris-Audix as the Vice Chair? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Rick is going to talk a little bit about the role of our Budget Committee.
Thank you, Chairperson Patacoli.
You're welcome.
In the attachments, and hopefully everybody received this, is a copy of Board's Policy BG 11, which has to do with the Budget Committee job description. It's a new policy that we put into place when we went through our policy governance structure just this last summer. This came out of those discussions. We felt the need to have a good description of what the Budget Committee is expected to do from the board's perspective, and how we may operate as a Budget Committee. Just to hit on one thing for Adam, traditionally we have citizen members of the Budget Committee act in a leadership role, and a board member act in the other leadership role. And for a number of years we used to switch every year, but about 6 years ago we started 2-year terms of chair and vice chair. And so next year most likely, because this is Chairperson Patacoli's second year as chair. A board member will probably be chair next year if we keep with tradition, but that's not really laid out in here. What we laid out in here is 2 years is the most someone could serve as leadership in a row. The thing I want to point out in the job description is really that second paragraph. The Budget Committee's role is to receive the proposed budget from the superintendent, provide the public with an opportunity to comment on the budget, and determine the reasonableness of the proposed budget in meeting the priorities and goals of the district as set by the school board. And that's what we focus on, is the results policy that we've spelled out in policy governance, is the goals that we've set out for the major overarching goal for the district. One other thing in this description I'd like to point out is item 1F, if you might recall from our meeting last year, and Adam, you weren't at that meeting at the time, but we had some votes that there was a little bit of discussion of what we meant by a majority of the budget committee when we have an actual vote, because at that meeting we only had 10 members there. And as this is laid out, and if you read this, we need eight yeses for something to pass. If we don't have 8 yeses, it fails. Even if we only have 10 board members here, our budget committee members here, that's a quorum, we can have a meeting, but 8 of those members have to agree on something for it to move forward, okay? And we weren't really clear about that last year. It didn't change anything that happened last year, so we weren't clear about it, so we wanted to make sure that was in writing as well. Betty?
Rick, so that's written somewhere in this document?
It's in our governance
In the
policy.
In the policy,
Yeah,
okay.
BG 11. We
Okay.
should be in the attachments you got, okay?
In the packet.
Got it. So it's not necessarily just a majority?
No, it's a majority of the number of members, and there's 14 members, so it always has to be 8. It's not a majority of who's
Got
here
it.
that night.
So it's a majority of the 14, so it has to be 8, okay.
The same way the school board operates.
I
There's
just want to
7
make
of us.
sure that we're clear this year on that, so we don't have any issues.
Okay. So I just want to hit on those things. If there's any questions about this, this is a living document. Of course, the board could change this description anytime they want to change the policies, they can. But right now, this is how we've laid it out for the budget committee to operate.
Yes, Chuck?
Rick, I'm wondering if maybe you could refresh my memory, and maybe others too, if, for example, if a board member wants staff to get some information, how that is handled.
I'll handle that in a couple minutes.
Okay.
Because I kind
Yeah,
of want to
and
think
we
it
didn't-
just a little different, so.
To
Okay.
dovetail that into this description, we didn't try to incorporate into this. We left that in our, is what I remember about our discussions as board. We left that to the budget committee, to leadership of budget committee, to develop that operating parameter and work it with the committee.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Does that answer your question?
It does, because
Okay.
we often have requests from individual board members or budget committee members requesting some kind of information, and we've got to kind of carefully manage staff time on some of these requests. So.
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify, in the ESD's, or not the ESD, OSBA's Budget Committee Handbook that you gave us, I believe that not only is that in our policy about the number of votes necessary to vote, it's also in state law, true? Yeah. And I didn't know that, so I was just wanting to go to our resident law expert down at the end of the table down there and verify that that's true. No, don't look beyond yourself. But Rick has already verified that that is in fact true, so I think we're set.
It does require a majority of the committee, not a majority of those present.
Right.
It's a majority of the committee. It's the same vote that would require at our board level. It's a majority of the board, not a majority of those present to take official action.
Having chaired the group 2 years and then reading this thing, thank you, Christy, for this, because this was very informative.
Yes, it was. Yes, Nancy?
I just want to comment a little bit on the process. I think that it's important to keep in mind that the board sets results policy, and we judge the superintendent's work in the district based on those results. And that as we look at the budget proposal and we have conversations about our concerns about what we see in it, or whatever the issues are that we want to raise, that we keep the context of the conversations about how it is that those issues that we're raising may or may not have an impact on the results. And that context informs our discussions around the budget.
Yes, Rachel.
Is this on?
Yes.
Given the sort of centrality of the results policy to the discussions, it would be useful to get a copy of the results policy. 'Cause,
That's
I mean,
a really good idea.
That's one of those things that, you know, I keep hearing about, but I don't think I've actually ever seen it.
Details.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, Superintendent Perry?
All right, so I think you've dove in quite heavily on this, so I'll make my comments brief. But I did introduce myself as 7 months in, but I do want to tell you I have 9 years of budget experience. So this is not my first budget committee process. It will actually be my 10th or 11th budget committee process. So the way I like to handle it is I like to be in control of the process as the superintendent, rather than having Mike as our chief financial officer be in charge of the process. What I'll want from Mike is the detail and some help with the details, but my experience is it's my results, and therefore I need it to be my budget process in this. So just know that I have a high capacity for detail, and I like to be involved in this work, so Mike and I will sit side by side in any presentations of any of the work. When we get into the detail work, again, I will rely on Mike and his staff to provide with the detail. What I'll also do for you as we prepare this next budget message, going back to Rachel's comment about the results policy, number one is we'll make sure you get the results policy ahead of time. But number two, hopefully, depending on funding, if there are any ad packages, I will tie them to what I believe are either, health, safety, structure, infrastructure, but also where I think we need to move the mark on results. And I don't think that any budget committee members were here when we had our report on student achievement. So I'll be sure that in my budget message, I try to provide some summary to you of where I think we are struggling, where I think we're successful, and where I think we're struggling with student achievement, so that you can keep that lens there. So when we get to the budget message process, I'll do that. I've done a lot of different things in a lead up to a budget committee process, and I also know that in the past this district has had a budget advisory team ahead of this process. But for this first go around, I really believe that I needed you as budget committee members to kind of see the big things on our horizon. So that's why I invited you to the results policy work session, to the here when we're talking about full day K. You'll be invited again to the career technical work session. If you can't be here, I get it. They're online. And but I wanted you to see the kind of program changes that are going to impact next year's budget, because we have a couple really big things on the horizon. And I think from my leadership experience, what I found is it's helpful to be fluid with how we engage depending on the year. In cutting years, I think we engage differently. In the position of that we'll add some programs, I needed you to see those coming at you, and because full day K and career technical education are pretty big ones. So I wanted you to have that context of the program side before that proposed budget comes along. And what I'll also tell you is that this district has hired staff after the budget is adopted by the board. And I have not been in that position before where I've waited for staff hiring to happen after a budget was adopted. And because of that, I think in my previous position, I had a better ability to get out in front and recruit from the best talent pool. And so there'll be places along the way that I will ask board leadership to get us ahead of the talent pool to begin offering some contract. You think about 60 full-day kindergarten teachers and that impact. But I do want you to know I totally respect the budget process. So if something changes drastically in the budget process, I will also take full responsibility for changing hiring decisions. And my experience has been, because I've cut as well as added in a budget, that I have a pretty good intuitive sense of where the numbers will land, and I don't take risks with people's employment, and I don't take them lightly. So know that when the board sees some things like hiring of CTEC people for next year, it's that we have to get out in front of the talent pool. If you change any of those decisions, I totally respect that and respect the process, and will make the personnel decisions on the other side of that. So just know my goal is not only to manage a budget process, but it's also to hire the best and the brightest for our kids. So I'm kind of managing competing demands. As you know, the first real words about the budget, you're going to see lots of clues in these meetings, but the first real words about the budget come out at that proposed budget message. I've also been in this position where I've had to lead up to that and say some things about it that give you some hints about where I'm headed with the budget message, because we've got full day K and CTEC on the horizon. So those are your hints about what will be in that proposed budget. The official proposed budget doesn't come out until I present it on that night. And in my previous experience, I've rarely let anybody know about what that proposed budget will say, other than in some meetings that just come before the budget committee. So I will go out and gather some input from staff, but when it comes down to the proposed budget, that happens just right before you hear it, or you hear it there fresh that first night. So know that, and I've also had things change right at the last minute, and that's why I'm true to that process, that you don't get to hear it until I've got that budget document in my hands and in front of you that first night. On the handling of information, what I would like is that the questions are directed to both Mike and I, because as the leader of the process, I like to know kind of the themes of what's coming at us and the questions and concerns. If I get in a position of what I feel like is information that we can't easily grab and takes lots and lots of staff time, I would revert to Betty and Nancy to help us sort through this and find out if it's something for the entire budget committee. But what I will tell you is we will spend as much time as you need with us one-on-one to help you with the process. Already for Adam, I've said, once we get this meeting behind us, let's spend a little time walking through the process and understanding this year's document, so that when it comes to next year's document, it'll have a little more context for Adam and our other two new budget committee members. So that's how I'm hoping we'll handle the information requests, and then Mike and I will work through answers, and the bulk of them will be answered by his staff when they get down to that detail level. And I'm going to have a question for Mike. Staff will be available at the budget committee to answer questions beyond just you and I.
Yes.
Okay. So I thought I saw you here tonight. So, and I think that process has worked well for you in the past, and we'll just take it one meeting at a time to see where we get. So with that, I'm going to stop talking and let you ask questions of me for a couple minutes.
Yes, Chris.
This isn't a question, it's a comment. I was thinking about Rachel and asking for the results policy. I'll just say that the result policy is pretty dry. It's pretty straightforward. That is the operational plan on how to get there. And so when I'm thinking about what we have to pay attention to funding, that's what I look at, not the results policy.
And we'll get you both of those.
I have a question. What happens, Christy, if the state does not come through with all the funds for all-day kindergarten? And how does that affect where, we've already cut and we want to put back if we can? Are there any thoughts right now on that?
Yeah, my intuition tells me to be fairly optimistic about where we are budgetarily going into next year. What I don't want to have happen is that we add full day K, and at the expense of other cuts. So I'm looking kind of at each level, and as we think about full day K, how does that impact? So I won't. My goal would never be to add a new program, CTEC and full day K, at the expense of others. So, fairly optimistic in a legislative year.
Yes, Jeff?
I think Lloyd had his hand up first, so I will
Lloyd?
defer.
The policy is pretty clear that the Budget Committee is to begin once the budget document has been provided. I don't tend to agree with that, but that's the way it's written. Given the difficulty of understanding a budget, what I would like would be, as a part of or accompanying the budget, for places where there have been major changes, new programs, a pretty clear page or two that says, okay, we've got full day kindergarten, and that's going to impact this part of staffing, this part of transportation, this part of curriculum, this part of, I forget, you had another category or something, so that when I look at a budget and I see numbers jumping around in somewhere, I can say, oh, that goes back to the career tech thing, or the kindergarten, all-day kindergarten, or maybe there's some other program that is causing a significant, that is a little hard to identify. So that there's sort of a guideline about, okay, well, there's going to be some changes in the budget document this year, and this is where you'll see them. I think that would be very helpful.
So that has been my practice in my former position, to do just that. But I don't want to give a definitive answer. I will do my best to honor that request. But I want to really relook at our budget document with that lens before I say 100% I can do that. But that will be our goal.
Okay.
Jeff?
I just wonder, there's nothing in state law that requires that we don't offer part-day kindergarten, right? Like, we would have the option of giving full day, but also half-day as an option, right?
Yeah, the state law, we could have always offered full-day kindergarten. The only thing that has changed is that we will receive a full weight of funding this next year for full day K. So full day K is not mandated. The only thing that is a new given, is that we get a full weight for every student. So previously, regardless of whether we offered a half day or full day, we only got a 0.5 of an ADM for kindergarten.
Okay.
So there would be nothing in the budget, in the process, that would prevent us from doing that, or in the
Okay.
law.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Nope. Okay. Superintendent Perry, you have anything else?
So I will give you a quick, are you okay for me to move on to update on funding?
Yep.
Okay, so I will give you kind of the update on where I see the funding is. So, because I think it's really important, as the second largest school district, that every single one of us advocates at the legislative level for adequate funding. So right now with the co-chairs budget, we really think of that as it's just an okay budget. It's okay. And I don't want us to ever say out loud that it's good enough for our kids, because it isn't good enough for our kids. At the co-chair's budget, we would restructure some things to offer full-day K, and we wouldn't make the strategic investments that we'd want to make across our district. So, and my passion says that's not good enough for our kids. So if the state of Oregon wants an okay education, and at the co-chair's budget, we can continue to do incredible things for kids with not enough money. If the state of Oregon wants to make strategic investments, if you think of what we've cut, 144 million, we added back 12 last year. The co-chair's budget doesn't get us there. And the state of Oregon needs to step up and fund a quality education for our kids. And that means not just the core academics, that means all the rest of the things we do. In Salem-Keizer, we've made a firm commitment to music programs and art at the high school, but the question is that good enough? And is our class size where we'd want it? So at the co-chair's budget, we can just be who we are. If we want to make a strategic investment in our kids and a quality education across Oregon, what we really need to think about is 7.875 billion in the state school fund. Where we are is 7.235 in the state school fund. So from 7.2 to 7.8, if the state legislature wants to invest in education. As we push for a higher funding level, that sets us in motion for years to come. I think back, this is just my own little soapbox, but my own children in school never experienced a full school year for all of their education. So they're 19 and 21-year-olds. So we have a generation of kids be out after high school that might not know what a full school year looks like and what a quality education looks like. And so we need to ask ourselves, is that good enough? And how are we going to make sure that this generation knows what a quality education looks like? So that was just my little aha moment the other day, that we're creating a generation that is voting and might not know what quality education looks like. And so 7.235 is not good enough for kids in Oregon. How'd I do, Jim? You want me to come testify? You ready? Okay, so that's where we are. It'll be lots of push and pull over the next 6 to 8 weeks. You will never hear me say out loud that we're okay at 7.235. And I don't want to let that rock the organization, but I will not say that's okay out loud publicly. Yes.
So, in terms of the likely push-pull and how it would affect Salem-Keizer, I mean, am I right in understanding that the governor's proposal is actually less than the 7.2 to the school fund, and then a bunch of other targeted strategic investments that they decide on rather than that the district, the individual districts decide on?
Yep.
And so that would be a further challenge.
That would be a further challenge. And I believe that the governor has identified the right investments. I mean, we can all agree early learning is the right investment. We can all agree reading by grade 3 is the right investment. But I think anything that takes away our ability to meet those investments, it really takes away your control as a budget committee and a school board. So I believe we know what's best for kids. And so I think we push that as much as that's within the state school fund and let us be in charge of the results. So the co-chair's budget is one step higher than the governor's budget, which is pretty typical. And the one thing I'm unsure of how it will shake out is those strategic investments. That's going to be a lot of where the push and pull comes from. Anything that takes away from the state school fund takes away from K-12. Good question.
Any other questions, comments? Yes.
Just a thought that came to me last weekend, actually, as I was working with a bunch of folks on this very issue. And the question that I asked was, if we go with all the strategic investment ideas, yes, they are the right things to invest in. Yes, we all can all agree that they're good things to spend money on. But if we put all of our extra money in those investments, we still have kids sitting on radiators in our high school classrooms. We still have too short a school year. So it's really difficult for me to get really excited about all sorts of strategic investments when our basic system is still broken. It's like we really need to fix the basic system and then start investing.
And you've cut 144 million
And, yeah.
and only added back
And
12.
only added back 12. And so it's difficult for people who don't sit on school boards, budget committees in schools to really grasp the fact of how badly schools are hurting after all these cuts. And to them, these are just the right strategic investments to add. And so anything we can do to try to help with that message, I think would be a good thing to do.
Well, and if you think about the results that we have had with a lot, we are really, really good about getting by. And we're really, really good about doing more and more and more. So we put on the happy face that it's okay, but it still isn't okay because we have incredible teachers in our classrooms.
But our kids are sitting on the radiators because there's no seats.
Okay, anyone else? So for tonight, we'll talk about the meeting schedule that we have. They will be working, obviously, furiously on the budget. The budget message will be April 28th. We will meet again then on May 11th. May 18th and 19th are the budget hearings, and then we have 2 additional days, if needed, after that to finish. Yes, Jim?
Are all those meetings projected to be at this facility as of right now?
Anybody?
Yes. Sorry, I was nodding my head and you couldn't hear me.
I'm trying to load up my calendar, so I
Yeah.
want to make sure I get the
Yes.
right place, so.
Not Venties?
No, but we'll tell you a different location, Jim. No.
Just so I don't come to the meeting, is that what you're saying?
No.
Christie, are you going to put all these on the sort of group calendar?
If they're not there already, yes, they will be.
I was just looking at May 11th. It's not on there, so I was.
Just for information, May 11th is a Monday, May 18th and 19th are a Monday and a Tuesday, making the 20th and 21st a Wednesday and a Thursday, if that matters to anyone.
That's how it usually is.
It's not Saturday or something.
It's not Saturday or Sunday. Okay, anyone else? Thank you all very much. We are adjourned.